Hello and welcome back everyone. In this video I will talk about the community college student. Recall from the last video I spoke a little bit about my background and my unique experience that prepared me to teach in the community college system. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about the types of students that we serve. And I've broken this down into three main areas that I think are of important consideration. The first of which is the students come from very diverse backgrounds. I like to refer to it as a Six Sigma distribution of backgrounds and abilities that our students have when they arrive. Many of them come from urban environments and others come from suburban environments, and they have a very wide range of life stories and experiences that they bring to the classroom. Second, our students have very diverse ideas. And I'd like to spend some time talking about some of the similarities and some of the differences between our students and students that attend four-year universities right out of high school. And I want to say a few words about the students and their K-12 preparation. And I want to give you an example of the type of dialogue that can occur in the classroom that may be representative of some of the diverse ideas that you may hear from our student population. And then finally, I'll conclude talking about some of the diverse goals that our students have that are in many ways special with the community college population and the types of students that we serve, and that many of them are juggling one or more jobs while going to school. Some of them are here to get a degree, a certificate, or transfer, and others want to advance in their current job or upskill. And we'll talk about all of these ideas in more detail as we go along. So I want to tell you a little bit about the diverse backgrounds of our students here in the district. It's Santiago Canyon College and Santa Ana College in the district, and here I've provided some of the demographic data that have been provided by the respective colleges. So you can see that we have quite a nice cross-section of students from different ethnicities. And what I want to spend a little bit more time talking about is the backgrounds of our students. And I refer to this as the Six Sigma distribution, meaning that we have students from both extremes of the continuum and everything in between. And what I mean by that is some of our students arrive that read maybe at a fourth or fifth grade reading level. I've personally had students in my classes in continuing education that have only had as much as a sixth grade formal education. And then we have on the other end of the continuum, in the exact same classroom, I have had retired chemists, retired engineers, people with PhDs, and they're all in the same class at the same time. And then you get everything in between. So this is quite a wide variety of students with very different life experiences and backgrounds. You get some that arrive directly out of high school. You might even have some that are in dual enrollment that are currently high school students as well. And then I've had students all the way on the other end of the continuum that are retired, that are in their 70s and 80s. I had one student that was taking my digital marketing class, for example, and home-based business classes, just to learn how to build websites and to offer her services as a website consultant, and she was a retired chemist. So there's just everything. When you don't know who's going to be in your class on that first day of class, and it's very exciting to get to meet them and to hear about all of their stories. And another point that I want to call your attention to that's of importance is that many of our students have situations where they have food insecurity or housing insecurity. In some cases, they need to provide income and resources to their household. They might be juggling one or two jobs to help provide for their family while they're taking classes as well. So it's important for us to be very sensitive to those types of issues that our students can be going through. And they usually don't tell you that. That's not something that they come to class on the first day and say, hey, you know, I live on the couch somewhere, or hey, you know, I haven't had anything to eat today. It's something that just kind of, it's something to be aware of, and it happens, and at Santiago Canyon College we have a Hawk's Nest food pantry that we can refer students to who may have food insecurity, and we have many student services available to support those students. So if you do hear about those things, the students do have resources to assist them in their time of need. I also want to talk about their income and experiences. Some of them come to us directly out of high school, as I mentioned before. Others return later in life, and it's important to realize that some of our students are here for purposes of upskilling in a current job, or they may be working and they may need to pick up like a class, for example, that I teach, say, digital marketing analytics, where they need to learn how to use Google Analytics or Google AdWords or some specific job-related skill that they're there to learn. And then we have others that are there to get a degree or transfer. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And now that brings us to the diversity of ideas that our students have. And I want to kind of take you back to my experience teaching in K-12. And I think it's important for us to be mindful of the K-12 experience that some of our students have had when they come to us. For example, I taught in Northeast Los Angeles, which I spoke about in my other video, and I worked in a very urban environment. I taught 9th grade and 10th grade at a high school in one of the Sotomayor academies, which I'll put up for you. And I taught there, and the entire high school across the board, this is all the way from 9th to 12th grade, the average reading level was 4th grade in high school. And many of those students, in fact, the vast majority of those students, went to community college at graduation. And in fact, while we were there during their junior and senior years, the school did push dual enrollment. They encouraged the high school seniors to take a community college class to make that transition a little bit easier while they were still in high school, which was quite nice and beneficial for the students. But it didn't change the fact that their reading and their math skills were very, very, very far below grade level. And I taught special education in a special day class. So can you imagine the student population that I serve not only had that background, but they were also at that same school where their classmates were also far below grade level. So it's important to be mindful of that and sensitive to the fact that many of our students they don't come to us with the same amount of skills as say someone from a more affluent district. Like I used my alma mater, Huntington Beach High School, as an example, where the parents were all concerned about whether their kids were going to go to Stanford or Harvard or Yale or whatever. And then when I taught in LA, the parents were just concerned if their kids went to school. So it's just that's just where they come from, and you have to be mindful of the fact that you might have some students in your class that come from a privileged background, and you might have other students that arrive in your class that did not grow up in the same environment. So it's important to be mindful of that. And I want to zoom in even more to kind of what a classroom dialogue can even look like in this context. And I'm going to take you back to about the year 2015 when I was doing Teach for America, and I was working in the inner city. And the topic of conversation came up about the American educational system. And many students, when I had this debate, even when I was in high school, is that on some level, even the students acknowledge that the system is broken. And that was kind of like the consensus, and people typically normed around how the system is broken insofar as some students have access to the resources and to the great teachers in districts with a lot of money, and the list goes on and on. But then when I was in LA Unified having the same conversation, I had one student that chimed up and said, the system's not broken. The system's doing exactly what it was designed to do. And this was a new perspective. I hadn't quite heard it that way before. And so I probed a little further. I said, could you tell me a little bit more about that? And the student explained to me that, well, when communities were designed and zoned and developed from the beginning, certain communities were designated to be low income, and that was by design, by the way that the infrastructure was set up. And it occurred to me that this in essence is really what we're getting at about the value of having diversity in the classroom, is that it brings in these new ideas and new ways of looking at things that can catalyze conversations to enable the students and the instructor alike to examine issues from multiple perspectives. And it's a good thing. And I linked an article in Scientific American that elaborates about how diversity actually makes us smarter. And then third, I want to talk a little bit about some of the differences between the student experience at the community college and at the four-year. And as I had mentioned in another video, I am a product of the community college system, meaning that I graduated high school with a 2.8 GPA. I was just not a strong student, and I landed at Orange Coast College, and I kind of found my way in the community college system. And when I was there, when I was a student, I typically sat near the front of the class, and I took notes, and I was focused, and I had the luxury of not having to work full-time, but I did maintain a part-time job like many other community college students, and did my thing at Orange Coast College and did very well academically. And then transferred to UC Berkeley and landed there and had a very, very different experience. For example, I lived in the dorms. I moved in. I was a junior, but I lived in the dorms with the freshmen and a few other transfer students living there. And the guy across the hall from me, for example, was only 15 years old and a freshman at Berkeley. And he never left his room except to go to class and to use the facilities and maybe to eat at least twice a day. And that was that. And very, very studious. And then so that was the guy across the hall. The guy that one of my roommates, he would get his textbooks 1 week before class for textbooks and say for his English classes. His readings, and he would go through that and he would read all of his books before the first day of school. And the reason I bring that up is that our student population at the community college will have some students that kind of fall into that section that are very diligent and very focused and kind of like that and then on the other end of the continuum, you'll have some other students that just aren't that prepared and they just have other things going on and aren't that focused on their academics at the time. So what we need to do is be very aware of that and very sensitive of that. And when we notice that a student is in the danger zone, as I like to call it, a danger of falling behind, that's an important time to start that conversation, to kind of check in with the student and see what's going on, and to kind of keep our thumb on the pulse of our students in our classroom, because some of them aren't that strong academically, and it's important for us to do these interventions if and when possible to kind of recognize that a student is at risk and to take the correct action to get the student back on track. The next thing I wanted to talk about is our students' diverse goals. Oh wow, I mentioned a little bit about this earlier in this talk. I mentioned that some of them are here with us to get their AA degree, to transfer, to get a certificate, and most of our students are here for that in one way, shape, or form. But we do have many other students that want to get a job or change fields or promote within their current job. Especially in my division where I teach in continuing ed, we're a little bit different than the credit side of the college. In my department especially, students are there just to get a certificate, to get a short-term, one-year vocational certificate in something like medical billing or nurse assisting, or digital marketing, home-based business, to get that certificate ASAP and get a job right away. And then you'll have other students that fall kind of somewhere in between, that maybe they want to do both. And then you get the other type of student that's there for personal enrichment. We have a number of students, especially in my division, that are there because they want something to do during the day to kind of keep their mind sharp and active. Now, some of them, even though they're doing that, may have some interest in getting a degree, but some of them are there just to kind of to have somewhere to go and to have a community and to talk to other students and to learn new things. They're lifelong learners, and you get everything in between. And I want to conclude with this, that really kind of my perspective as a faculty member, I can certainly say that my philosophy on the matter is to help the student in any way possible, to do everything that I can to help the student achieve at his or her highest level. And that looks different in different situations. As a community college instructor, sometimes you're the sage on the stage with all the information and you're imparting knowledge. Other times you're helping the student navigate some situation that might have happened in their life. And then other times you're in a dialogue with them, challenging their ideas, and they may challenge yours, and seeking knowledge. But I think at the end of the day, really the goal is to help the students achieve at their highest level. And keeping that in mind, it's really a wonderful place to be. I'll see you all online.